innovation in real estate, not just because of our market, but because it's necessary in every aspect of the world right now. So I'm going to introduce my guests and then we'll just go right into it. So I've got Healy, Healy and Associates. Thank you for joining us this evening.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me and us this evening.
And us, all three of us, yes. And Stephen Lewis, founder of, is that Homematchx, Stephen?
Yes, Homematchx, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. You have just such a great reputation in the real estate industry for a multitude of reasons. And so I am going to start off with just a little announcement, which I think is kind of cool. We just had our Texas Realtors winter meetings in Austin, and a lot of things went on. A lot of awards were had, but Real Talk actually won Innovative Program of the Year for the state of Texas with Texas Realtors. So kind of timely that happened last week, and our program that we did 2 months ago was about innovation. So yeah, pretty cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Right. But it's with guests like you. It's having people like you guys on here in a warm, approachable, just raw format, which this is not a normal webinar, a class, or anything else. In fact, I think I told you both, don't necessarily give me the PR answers. This is really to help our industry get the messaging out there. Yeah, so let's start off with you, Stephen. Just in a nutshell, give me your personal definition of what innovation in regards to real estate means. It can be anything you want to spout out as far as that goes.
Yeah, I would say innovation in real estate, what it means is assessing the market, assessing the current climate of the industry, and understanding what tools and resources are currently missing that could bolster up the business that you're operating in and create a lasting impact when it comes to changing the way people do a certain task.
Stephen, did you just Google that? Because I know we talked about it. I was going to throw that at you.
No joke.
Not at all.
You just know it. You know it. That's why you're on tonight. All right, Rogers, no pressure. What's innovation in real estate to you?
Yeah, I'm going to take a different route here. I'm going to say innovation is doing what your gut tells you to do. And I think that right now we are saturated with realtors, which is great. We obviously have a shortage of inventory and supply. But, I think that old school meets new school is the right school. And I think that innovation, obviously, it revolves around technology. But really, I think being innovative right now for a salesperson is being authentic and being approachable and being accessible. And I think that comes down to just a lot of mistakes people make in sales in general. So, yeah, I think what Stephen said is great. I think it's very sharp. I tend to go the frat boy route and just say that I think being innovative right now is being old school and realizing that Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn and Twitter, that definitely helps your platform, but nothing makes a better opportunity than eye contact and being yourself. And as unfortunate as it is in the world, especially being dominated by entitlement and laziness, innovation might just be hard work and showing up and being a student and maybe doing it with a little bit of humility.
And that's what we kind of talked about a little bit. And I know you were poking, but at the same time, I think we're in alignment there. Not because they weren't great people, but I removed the bulk of my agents from 2020 till, the end of 2021. And that wasn't because I hate realtors. I actually love them. I dedicate my time to not only my business, to my clients, but also to serving in our real estate industry. It's just a matter of, you got to want it right now. You have to work. And I think we live in this Google generation, this instant gratification generation where it's like, okay, I've got my license. Let's make $1 million. What do we need to do? Well, you need to actually get up and get dressed, put some pants on and maybe meet some people.
Yeah. Preach. I guess I can just tell you that, but yeah, I don't know if this is a question, but I feel called to respond. A lot of quotes in life. I think one of them is 99% of success is showing up. And I do think that showing up physically is a very important thing. And one of my favorite sermons I ever heard was, it didn't say go to church. It said be the church. And I think right now, our industry more than ever needs people to just actually be professional and to be present and to put in the time. And you've done it for a long time, like I have, and I still work just as much as I did.
Oh gosh, more.
But it's more fun, you know. And I think that when you figure things out differently and you start to get confidence and wisdom, then you want to go back. I think the best thing to do is go back to the basics. And when you do that, when you've mastered them, you're competing against people that either don't want to put in the time or they're afraid of what they're doing. And that's when I think you become a different master of the game.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Stephen.
I like that. I like that what you said. A lot of that has to do with sometimes just getting out of your routine. Like, I think we can be so driven on, I got to do this time. I got to do, but real estate right now doesn't have a time, right? You have to break some of those rules and those bad habits that you have right now and get connected to the process, get connected to the buyer, get connected to the agent. Like, you may have to miss certain things right now. You may be accustomed to going to the gym at 5 o'clock. Maybe you have to adjust that, or because you have to do a lot of extra work in advance. But I just think you just have to get out of routine right now and just break habits.
I think it goes both ways. I think first you have to have habits, and then you have to be able to pivot when the market is in such a volatile state that it is right now. And I think that's what's so hard is people grow comfortable. They feel like they've earned the right to do things a certain way. And life has changed for all of us in this world, not just in the real estate industry. Rogers, you used a word that I think is probably my biggest pet peeve right now. And you said, be accessible.
Yeah.
And I think I have never seen listing agents have such a low bar for their fiduciary responsibility to their sellers by not being freaking accessible. I get it. You have the golden ticket right now, but this isn't Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Okay. You are sitting there and needing to communicate and cooperatively talk to the buyer's agent on the other side, because yes, price is always important, but there's so many other factors that go into that. And I'm just finding people are making themselves less and less accessible on both sides. As a listing agent, I'll reach out to a buyer's agent and say, hey, wow, you going to pick up the phone, text me, do anything? I just got this blind offer, and they still won't even communicate with me.
Again, maybe amen is the response. Or I do think that it is good to sometimes be a little bit sympathetic, like empathetic. And I think right now empathy is lacking in the world, but especially in real estate. I think this is the hardest time to ever be in real estate. I have a lot of respect for people that are starting out and sticking with it. But, you know, I pay attention to my agents, and I'm sure just like Stephen and like you get a listing in that price point. Say you get a listing for $450,000 in Dallas, your life is going to suck, and you're going to get 50 or 60 offers. And that is, you know, it's hard to kind of keep that going and know that you can't just survive off one deal. But I think that historically realtors, if anything, they like to text you back. And I think answering your phone and, you know, being available is a lost art. But right now, I think there's a little bit more reason for an excuse. Not that it makes it any easier.
Yeah, I would say what Rogers mentioned about the market is oversaturating with realtors. I think that you have to understand as a real estate professional that you are replaceable. You know, that if they decide that you're not, you know, attending to their needs, you know, then you are replaceable. There is an agent in everyone's phone, whether it's 1 level deep or 10 levels deep. It doesn't matter. There is a connection. And I think with that, it has to be somewhat of a fear factor. Like, hey, I am replaceable, you know, so I need to do everything that I can. But when Rogers mentioned about the listing agent, it's crazy because the listing agent getting contacted by the buyer that the buyer's agent is not available to show them that property. So it's like double duty almost. And you feel bad when you walking into an open house or what have you, and there's just, you know, conversations regarding their buyer's agent accessibility that's frustrating them the most.
And I think that's the whole point. Is the funny part is we could talk about, and we are going to talk about, Stephen, the platform that you've created, but innovation so many times immediately goes to technology, you know, artificial intelligence, you know, doing different things that way. It's almost like being communicative and answering your phone has become retro, like it's becoming cool again. And that's becoming innovative to actually talk on the phone. And I don't know where I saw it, but it was something like when they were talking about, and this was, I think, more from a construction practitioner standpoint, a service technician. They said, if you actually just communicated proper expectations, answered your phone, and did those things with customers, you would actually be in like the top 8% of your industry. Setting expectations, answering your phone, and responding. And that's, but that we're not immune to it either. I think it's the same thing. So, we don't want to beat a dead horse there. Let's talk, Stephen, talk a little bit about what you've done in regards to Homematchx.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I realized, especially during the pandemic, is that we're getting bombarded with what Roger said, 60 offers on a $450,000 house in Dallas. And so what happens is you have a fiduciary duty to share those offers, to your client. And yes, it is going to require hours and hours of time spent just to put those offers together. And one of the things that I realized is the power of a listing agent. The listing agent can almost encourage or tell that particular buyer's agent, hey, listen, in order for my client to receive an offer that's broken down, I'm going to need you to submit an offer through this platform. And so one of the things that we realize is that we want to get outside of the send your offer via email and just put some flowery response in the body and send it over to me. And let's text each other back that I received it and got it. And so what we decided is that why not build a platform that we could require buyer's agent to submit their offer through the system that we created and identify the highlights of that offer, and then hit the upload button, which will upload the contract and just submit it. And it comes to us in a very deliverable way. And it is broken down like a term sheet. You still have the attachments of those offers, and you can break down those offers in a chart format so you can identify quickly which one is the best offer. What are you looking for? You're looking for the fastest closing. You're looking for the highest purchase price, looking for the highest earnest money. What does that look like for you in order to come to a decision quickly? And so we analyze that process, and we develop that platform so we can provide a much more streamlined and transparent process to the seller in a way that they can better understand what's happening in the process.
Hey, I mean, I think that's great because you guys saw a need and decided to create something to fill it. And I think that's what the key to innovation is paying attention to what's going on in the marketplace. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate real quick. I think that's something that's fantastic for the average agent. I mean, to be able to, as a listing agent who maybe doesn't have the skill set or doesn't have the desire to work as hard, and it is inundating. Are we taking away, and this isn't against Homematchx. I mean, I think you've created a solution that a lot of people could utilize, but don't you think some of what we do right now is also being able to weed out the weak of who we're going to be able to work with by the way they're presenting their offers?
You mean in a interviewing setting where you're trying to find the best listing agent for your property?
No, or the best buyer's agent for my seller. This is a package deal. We're basically in a marriage for the next 30 days or so. And unfortunately we're seeing, a lot of different layers, appraisal hiccups, different things like that. Delays with surveys that we've never seen before. So does your program kind of help identify weakness in how offers are presented? Because if somebody does an incomplete offer, are they still being presented like they did present a good one?
So, I mean, you still have the ability to evaluate the full contract like we all would. We want to be able to provide, the checks and balances. What you say was presented, does it allow, when you go to that contract, does it speak the same language? One of the things in real estate moves so fast that sometimes you don't have time to look through all the contract, all the addendums,
Sure.
because you may be in the process of watching the Super Bowl, and so you just want to quickly look at, okay, something came in. And so that's where the offer highlights come in. And then you would validate that based on what was shared in the highlights, does that translate on paper? And that's where that process comes in to be able to check those items.
No, totally understand. And so Lisa has kind of chimed in on that. Strong as buyer's agent should be considered too. And so I want to say what Stephen is saying right now is not that replaces the communication from a buyer's agent, but it kind of disseminates the information in a streamlined way so you can highlight whether or not if there's an $80,000 delta between, some offers, obviously those are the things that will just make it easier to hone in on the offers that
Sure.
you want to further dig into. So I think that's great, Stephen. And I think that's great that you became innovative during this different real estate world and everything else and provided a solution for so many of us that are inundated with that. Rogers, what is a trend that, I don't want to say that you're making your agents or encouraging your agents, but what's a trend that you think people should be adopting right now, whether it's a technology platform, a communication style, anything that you feel like will kind of accelerate and put somebody above the rest in the saturated marketplace?
Yep. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
The word is reality. That's it. And I think I've never been accused of being an overthinker or anything short of pragmatic or practical. And, real estate, especially residential, and we do commercial and farm and ranch, all that
Sure.
stuff, but residential is kind of what got us to the dance. But I think that people are running from just the fear of being straight at, whoops, almost cursed on TV.
You're fine. Actually, you can actually curse on this show.
No,
So you're okay.
no. We're here to make sure that everybody watches this, including my future children. You got to be honest, and time is money, right? And it goes back. You get 80 offers on a house. That's going to take you a lot of time. That's why Stephen put a company together to create convenience. But I think people are afraid to go and be honest. And obviously, the American dream will always be owning a home, even though we have people that are building master plan rental communities. Great, and that's because people don't know how to save their money, and that's another time and another class. But I think reality is going to get people the opportunity to go and grow. And when you think about it, if you can go and match reality with statistics, and you can read the paper, watch the news, and do the stuff that no one else wants to do, you eventually become a machine. If you can tell someone, hey, this is not your forever home, buy it. It's not in the neighborhood you dreamed about as a kid, but in 3 or 4 years, you might be able to go and actually make that happen. That's reality. And you tell the seller the same thing. Hey, look, I get it. Zillow, that's a great app and a great website, but they don't know what they're doing. And in fact, here's an article that proves that they just put about $220 million in the trash can because they tried to compete with people like Stephen and me and Ashley. So I think reality is a powerful word that most people run from. And I think you also have to just trust your gut like we talked about. 15, 20 years ago, the big disruptor was social media. Now I think the disruptor is reality. And I think that if people can go and look at that and realize that a place like Dallas, Texas, inside of 635, we are 200,000 houses short. That's reality. You think of millennials, where you have half of home buyers right now in the country are millennials. That's reality. And I think that if you look at it like that, you find a way to convey that message to your clients and your prospects and even your coworkers, you find a way to go and rise above, because a lot of other people are talking heads, but the smartest one's the one that just simply do their homework and convey that message in a real manner.
Well, and I think that's
Ashley, what's the number one question that agents get, right? What's the market like? What's the market?
Is it a good time to buy?
Is it a good time to buy? Yeah.
It's always.
I tell people if you want to feel the market, get in. Regardless if it takes you 1 week, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever, you have to feel this market in order to appreciate where you're going to go. And I think that the thing that's standing in the way for those that's on the fence, those that are ready to get in, it becomes motivation, the fear factor. Get in, feel this market. You catch it. Hey, high five your agent if you lost on an offer. Who cares? Get in and go after the next one.
Go ahead, Rogers.
It appears as though a disgruntled fan, Seth Longcar, who I did a deal with a few years ago, is still bitter that I didn't show up, and he's trying to bash me in the comment section. So, Seth, great to hear from you. I did call you buddy, and I'm going to call you buddy again, but it sounds like you need a Snickers. So Seth, thanks for trying to go and insult me on a public platform, but you picked the wrong day, buddy. Anyway, back to you, Ashley.
Well, you know what's funny? I'm sitting here and normally I don't go like this the whole time, but I was trying to get the context clues of what was going on. So Rogers, thanks for just putting it out there.
Seth is
So I love the fact that I also heard your can open at the same time, which is why this is Real Talk and it's an innovative program.
It's just water.
I love it though. Hey, it's still great. Mine's just water as well. So going back to that, I think we're all just struggling and trying to find our way, but the reality in setting proper expectations, it's really the first thing you should do. I've got agents right now that are telling me, your colleagues, I won't take a buyer. You can't pay me enough to take a buyer right now. And I'm like, you're insane, because I've got 2 closings tomorrow where I got one that was underpriced, another one that I negotiated closing costs in an FHA deal, and we got additional repairs done during the option period and everything else. And that is in the $330,000 price point, but I hacked the system. But my mind is the thing that hacked the system. We've got the MLS.
That sounded like an open door.
No, it wasn't an open door. And I can tell you, all those hedge fund platforms and everything else, they're a pain in the butt. I mean, even though they overprice their listings, they still think their crap doesn't stink. So, they're still a pain to deal with. But I was able to get a buyer. I sat there and I said, okay, I know the best deal for them is to do FHA financing, not only because of the down payment, because of the rate. And so my thing was, I've got to figure out the right situation for them. And that was it. And it was a distressed sale because it was a divorce situation. It was in a neighborhood that didn't allow investors to purchase. You had to be an owner occupant for 12 months. And ultimately we recognized that there was maybe not some stellar marketing done on the listing agent's part. And we were able to get in there, and I negotiated a home warranty. I had negotiated the seller to pay title policy. It was under contract list price. And during the option period, negotiated $2,100 in seller contributions for repairs. So it can still be done, but it's the stinking thinking. But you got to look. And our MLS is such a robust system. But if you're just looking at it as putting in parameters and then not reverse engineering what those listings look like, we're doing a disservice. Okay, so we're not going to talk about Seth anymore, but I am going to go back up and look at some of the other comments.
Bring back Seth. We want Seth.
Bring back Seth. Hey, you never know, he might come back. So you guys have a fan club, and I love that. So we've got Bab said, I'm currently looking at 2 real estate rock stars on my list. Lola Fashola, who's a Texas realtor, said, hey, Rogers. And then somebody just egging you on. Bab wanted you to slip a dirty word, but we're not going to do that. So, but Sherry said, managing your buyer's expectations with reality. And I think that's probably the quote we're going to take from this. And whether that's with the process, whether that's with the initial consultation, that is so true. But okay. So Bab said, can we talk about sellers not taking FHA offers? Why not? So what's your position on that, Stephen?
Yeah, well, a lot of it has to do with, let's be real, the real estate professional. The seller does not know anything outside of the loan that they were provided at the time of purchase.
Sure.
So a lot of the education does stem from the real estate professional, sharing, which one's the good offer, which one's the weak offer. We need a full appraisal. We need a partial. A lot of that does stem from the professional. I think sometimes you just let the process happen naturally and then go to the process of explaining to them the offers that's presented. But I think we do a lot of things up front where we actually tell the buyer's agent, hey, my seller only wants this. Well, did you set that up, or did the seller actually say that? And you hear that and you just listen to the words. If you listen to the words of the listing agent, that tells you a lot about what they're telling their agent that their agent really don't know, but they're the ones that's driving it. Let the seller, play this out and select the offer that's on the table that's reasonable. Let it go.
Rogers, what's your take on listing agents poo-pooing FHA or other less than financially teeth in offers with their programs?
You're saying as far as them not wanting to work the deal?
Yep.
Not their house.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big issue with real estate too, and again, like we saw with Exhibit A over here, we couldn't have asked for a better example of an uneducated agent that doesn't understand, what our parameters really are. And I think that nothing, as our job, our fiduciary duty, if you get an offer on a listing that's $1 million and the offer is 15 cents, you have to present the offer, period. And when someone says, I
100%.
can't present this offer, you have to say, look, unless I see your name on the tax rolls, you have to go and present this offer. You don't have to get me a counter. And I think that's been an issue for a long time. But, I do think right now it is hard for VA and FHA loans to win anything. And again, it just goes back, be realistic. And I'm fascinated with the theory of a bullseye. And I think everybody wants to be in the bullseye. But I think right now it might take 3 or 4 layers out to eventually go and make something happen. It just goes back to live there for 2 to 3 years, earn 3 to 5% appreciation each year, make money when you sell, and then eventually get 1 layer in. So I do think that's hard, but it's not our job to go pick and choose the kind of offer that the seller wants to work with unless we actually are the seller. And I think a big part of it too, last thing I'll say is most people don't know what an FHA or VA loan is. And if you have the opportunity to work a cash deal, even though the proof of funds is from some shanty in Albuquerque, New Mexico, you're going to still put that to the top because it's less work. So, I think it's about getting educated and learning the market, but also, again, if you have multiple offers that are easier for the seller to work, that's always going to win.
So there are several comments in here, and I'm actually going to splice Kathleen's, Pam, Chad's, Jonathan's, everything else. I'm going to splice this into one thing because this is my soapbox. And I tell my sellers when we start, listen, you've probably heard the term an appraisal waiver, everything else. It's still a freaking piece of paper. Just because somebody signs an appraisal waiver that says my intention is that I will back up my contract price that I'm offering to you doesn't mean that they're still not going to default.
Sure.
And then the flip side of that, because we've had people commenting saying we can't do an appraisal waiver with FHA and VA financing, but you know what you can do? You can get the lender involved. And sometimes on an FHA deal, and of course on a VA deal, it's just a better program for the buyer. Maybe they're getting a preferential interest rate, same thing with VA. And you sit there and you call the lender and the lender says they have liquidity. We're going to try to roll this with the lowest down that we can because cash is so cheap. Financing is so cheap right now. Love the dog. Yes, no, I've got 3 locked up over there, but I love to see them. But
jail.
Yes, but financing is virtually still the lowest it's ever been, even though interest rates are going up. So I am not going to sit there and say that you need to put 20%, 25%, 30% into the deal. If you can get away with doing 3.5% or 5% or whatever, or 0% as a VA buyer, good for you. But your lenders should be advocating on your behalf as well. And I think lenders have gotten lazy. I think our vendor partners have gotten lazy because there's just been so much volume and everything else. But that's where they come into play. And I will never shy away from an FHA or a VA deal because if the merits are there, they also know that I might be the only one as a listing agent advocating for them with my seller because it's a good situation for them. And they're more invested. And that's what we should be thinking. That's innovation. Innovation in just the thought process of what the offers look like. So, as far as the appraisal waivers and everything else, yes, if somebody's making this ridiculous offer and I want them to just put, pen to paper because they're shooting the moon and they shouldn't even. I had a $484,000 listing in Allen, nothing crazy about it. And I received an offer for $632,000. Again, if there was a lot of stuff going on in it, I that's different. But 632, and the owner was an owner of a loan company in California. So my point was, hey, just put your money where your mouth is. And they weren't the one that I wanted to deal with. My client was actually going to pick the $600,000 offer because it was a better agent, a better lender that communicated with me, but they got cold feet and couldn't sit there and do anything. So I think that's the whole innovation and mindset is something that none of us are doing right now, where we're taking the integrity of what's in the piece of paper, but then we're taking the players of the game, the lender, the agent, the circumstances. So yes,
let me add this. Actually, I think you just said something. What you just did was that better agent, that better communication. I think as agents now, we have to sell ourselves to the other party. We do have to let them know that, hey, I'm a person of integrity. I'm going to communicate with you. We're going to make sure this deal goes smoothly into the closing table. You have to. I think sometimes there are offers that's presented and it's like it just fall flat, and you don't really hear nothing back until they decide at the very end, hey, did they go with my offer? If you create a way where you just stand out as an agent, like, hey man, I'm coming, like we got an offer, said I'm coming in hot, that made me like say, oh wow, you coming in hot. And then they really did come in hot, and then the personality started to show up, and then as other people bring their offers to the table, and they really came in hot, then you deciding, hey, this agent has been communicating with me. They've been staying on top. I feel like that they could have a smooth process, if we work with them. But I do encourage though listing agents to do an open house, feel what the market is feeling, understand what the headaches and what the heartaches looks like and feels like. Because the only way you're going to go places if you understand the emotional connection behind this marketplace.
You know what? I think open houses is something really good to touch on right now. I think it gets a bad rap, or we put it in a box as far as an open house. But Rogers, what's your thought of your agents hosting open houses on their listings?
Do it. I've always been I actually have not always been an open house fan. I think one of my first foot in my throat experiences, I was trying to feel like the king of the world, teaching a class to my office, and someone said, like, what do you think is a waste of time? And I just knee-jerked and said, open houses. And in fact, I'm going to host an open house this weekend on Northwest Highway, and it was just like the perfect storm. Bad weather, just not a great market. Things were tough, and it was a tougher street. And I was like, I'll report back on Monday, and it's going to be exactly what I thought. Literally the most cliche thing ever. Host an open house, have cookies, balloons, candles. Whatever. Johnny Realtor. Couple walks in. The kids have their face painted. They hang out with me. The parents come downstairs. They're like, we'd love to buy it, and we want you to represent it. I was like, are you kidding me? So I did it, and then I listed their house and sold it at an open house. And so ever since,
look at that, man.
What? Yeah.
No, so, I said, look at that. Wow.
Yeah, but you know what? It's like sitting at a slot machine for 12 years and eventually getting a hit. But I think open houses are great. And I think also people that get into real estate, a lot of them don't have a background in actual sales. And in sales, the first thing you sell is yourself. And in college, I had a job waiting tables all through college, in large part because I did not pass my real estate test the first time, and $66 times a lot. I had to go find a way to fund my lifestyle, and I learned how to go talk to people to scale to where it doesn't intimidate me to go introduce myself to a stranger. But I think open houses also, it teach you how to go and adjust. And if someone walks in, if they're a tire kicker, that if they're there to maybe go and just have some social time, or if they're a real buyer. And that's the kind of, again, real experience that people need to go and vet it out. And I think that's why people don't make it in real estate, is they overtrain themselves, or they're on social media all day and they miss out on the human factor. So short answer, I believe in open houses.
Okay, so I'm going to throw something out there. I love the fact that you just said that. And I'm a very big open book as far as that. It took me 3 times to pass my real estate exam. And that was before you could sit there and then take one 30-hour class to reset the clock. I was going to have to do all of my education again, because this was like 17 years ago, whatever it was. So, that does not mean that you're not going to be a great agent. I know plenty of people that have passed it time 1 and didn't make it 18 months.
Oh my God. Look, first of all, I'm about to make you feel a lot better. This is part of my testimony. ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I took the real estate exam 22 times. And so it took me 7 months to pass it. I took my broker exam 1 time, and this is part of my story, and I believe that people need to hear it. I literally took the real estate exam 22 times, and they knew my name at the testing center in Grand Prairie, Arlington, Waco, Tyler, Dallas, everywhere. So yeah, my story is one of perseverance. So 3 times, give me a break. 20.
Hey, but shout out to Waco, because they were actually the one that were the blessing for me. But going back to, I know Sherry Fearbacher is chiming in, and just so you guys know, she is on vice chair of forms and contracts. She's also my mother. And business partner. Open houses allow you to hone your people skills, but allow you to meet the buyer's agent as well as the buyers, gives perspective to incoming offers. And that's where I was going with that, because nobody can sell your product better than you can. And that's what I've always told my agents. Maybe you're not going to do what Rogers did and get a deal out of it as a byproduct, but do you think you're the best representative to actually advocate for your seller's home? Every time I do an open house, that's exactly what happens, because I can tell them the nuances. I can sit there and do that. I'll generally either have plexiglass sheets with all the information that our seller's disclosure and our MLS listings don't have, or I'll have a book of all the maintenance records, and they sit there and flip through. They'll have questions. It creates that dialogue. And then they feel comfortable making an offer on the property, because not only are they feeling comfortable with the property, they're feeling comfortable with me as the listing agent that holds basically their destiny in my hands. And those are things that we need to be doing. The other flip side of that is buyer's agents are exhausted, at least the ones that are working, several active clients. I will hold open houses on my listings, not just to sell them, but to allow buyer's agents to create more bandwidth so their clients can see the homes and they can be in 15 places at once. And I think as listing agents, that's something that we can do, even if we get a newer agent from our office so they can get some training and do the different things that we've talked about. But it's also a courtesy at this point to just help a fellow realtor out and give them access to the house.
Yeah, actually, I'll say this one bit with the open house aspect. I think that if by not having an open house, you could be missing out on the right buyer for the property. Now, the property is going to sell, period. But there could be someone willing to pay a little bit more, but they were unable to gain access because the open house. Matter of fact, a person came through our open house this weekend because their agent was at Texas Realtors in Austin.
Yes.
They said, "Hey, my agent, they didn't know why the agent went to Austin. The agent just went to Austin." And I'm glad you held an open house. That allowed us to come in and take a look at it. And so, when you get those kind of stories, it's just, you could be missing out on the perfect buyer,
Yes. And that's what we've got to be. I'm still seeing houses come back on the market and happening 1, 2, 3 times on some really great products, because people are so reactionary right now in their offers and how they're approaching it. But like Alan said, he was referencing to what you said, Stephen. An open house lets you get a feel for the current market and provide a realistic feedback to the seller, whether it's positive or negative. We also have sellers right now that have that themselves are setting some unrealistic expectations. So it's going both ways. I will tell you guys, Bab says they're a sales agent. They're on month or they're on month 2 of studying, and Inc. Realty and Rogers, Healy and Associates are on my brokerage list. Great folks at both places. So look at that. You guys are doing a good job. And obviously we've got a good fan club chiming in. So, all of those things. Oh, and then Deborah Collins, he's my broker. Love him in our office. Now, who does Deborah belong to?
Deborah just got a raise. Deborah is the first agent to ever cap at Rogers, Healy and Associates. So, Deborah, congratulations.
Awesome.
You're at 101% commission split. Deborah, we love you. Yeah.
No, I think that's fantastic. And again, to have agents chime in on something like this just shows how much you guys are an example to so many. So no, let's go into a different direction. We've got about 20 minutes left. We've talked about innovation and just our mindset in the market and technology a little bit. Let's do some forecasting because I think the other thing that we get asked all the time is, when is the market going to crash? And I would love to start with Rogers, because you had talked about educating yourself, reading, making sure that you're looking at what's going on in the marketplace, in the industry, in the world, and just having a well-rounded approach. So what would be your initial response to, when is the market going to crash?
It's not going to.
Amen.
That's it. And again, read the paper, y'all, and read the paper, watch the news, and pay attention. And I'm a very black and white thinker. I'm heavily levered in the world of real estate, but I heard an analogy about a year ago, and it gave me a little bit more confidence, not that I needed it, about our market. Dallas is post-World War II Los Angeles. Okay, post-World War II, what happened? It was called the baby boom. Why? Because people came home and they wanted to procreate because they were stuck, outside of their loved ones for a long time. They came back, and next thing you know, gremlins. And I think what happened is they all wanted to move to a place that was their dream place, was Los Angeles, right? That's what's happened in Dallas the last 2 or 3 years. And that's not to say that across the country and across the world things are gonna stay at this pace, because inflation is real and eventually reality has to catch up with us. But we literally are not in a bubble here. And it just goes back to where all of us that have been in this industry for a long time, we have kind of PTSD from 2008, 2009, et cetera, where that economic crash was 100% because of real estate, right?
Yep.
Now, our economy is literally going to go and thrive because of real estate, and in large part because of the people that we've kind of made fun of the last 7 or 8 years. They're going to drive our market, and it's millennials. And so I think when you have that in a city like Dallas, that we have 400 people per day moving here for no other reason other than the fact that it's central, it's affordable, and it's fun, that gives us a reason to keep this going. So it's not going to crash, and it might slow down, but on top of all this too, rental rates are at an all-time high. So at what point does it kind of change? But I do think we're going to see a drastic change in trends. I think the real estate's no longer going to be about location. I think it's going to be about affordability. And I think we're going to have higher turn with properties, which makes the life of a realtor that much easier. So short answer, I'm pro not crashing. I don't think these prices are going to slow down at all. And I think that people that are losing out, if they're spending $630,000 on a $430,000 listing, that's a comp. And when that comp goes and hits, the whole neighborhood changes, and all of a sudden you just went one layer outside the bullseye. So listen, I'm very excited about it. I understand that it's a stressful time to be in this business, but short answer is there's no crash.
Well, and Stephen, I'm going to ask you the same question in just a second, but that's what we were talking about right before we went live, Rogers, was you asked me, hey, how's real estate going for you? And I said, I'm exhausted, but it's great. And it's great because this is where I outpace my colleagues who aren't willing to think outside of the box. And this is where the people that really are ingrained in real estate and know how to hone in and figure out how we still get our clients into homes, how we represent our sellers and everything else. This is where I shine. I actually looked at from the beginning of 2020 to now, my average offers written on my buyers. And I, not toot my own horn, but I'm a decent producer. 1.5 offers per buyer was my average. And you're hearing horror stories on 8, 10, 12, 14 offers and people just saying, I'm out. I'm going to step on the sidelines. I'm going to go rent. And it's not better. Prices have gone up since last year. Interest rates have gone up since last year. And I have to say, then that means that the agents that were representing those buyers that decided to stay on the sidelines didn't know how to think out of the box. So I agree with you completely, Rogers, as far as this is where we are. I have lived on both coasts, New York, New Jersey, and California, and I have seen the markets in all of those areas. and we definitely are there, and we are blessed to be in such a fantastic marketplace. Stephen, what about you? What's your take when somebody says, is the market going to crash? When is it going to stabilize? Should we buy now?
Yeah, you know what? I would look at your current pipeline. What do you have? I think more people, more real estate professionals probably have more buyers that approach them about representing, them as their agent versus the listing. So there are still quite a handful of buyers that are calling their agent, calling you. So when you look at, that's a conversation. Hey, I got about 5 buyers right now, and I got about 2 listings that are active on the market. That right there tell you that there is still, and they hear the same news we're hearing. They can go out and read the same articles we're reading. And what's happening is only validating that the market, especially in Texas, is a strong market. What you're talking about right after the 2007, 2008 crash, Texas was the market that stayed afloat. I mean, we leveled out and look where we are right now. I just think that when you go back and look at the marketplace, you have to understand it's crazy. And I would even say that buyers are better off qualifying for a home to purchase than they are qualifying for a home to rent, because the process now is just crazy. So you're going to get buyers that say, why the hell am I thinking about renting when I'm getting turned down? And my scores to them may seem, unattractive, but it can qualify for a home. So those people are going to realize it's common sense to just go take the process of buying a house. And I just think if more people start to think like that, then they're going to be the ones that's going to say, hey, I got to jump in the market. I got to jump in. That's why I think that I feel that the market is going to continue to last, and you're going to see more development happen more outwardly, because now when you go to new home construction, you're talking about first phase of 16 phases down the line. This is a 2 to 5 year, a 5-year plan, in terms of these phases that keeps, going forever and ever. And I think when you think about that consciously, I'm in Aubrey, and I think about, when you think about when does the tollway end? Most people probably haven't went far back as the tollway. Does the tollway ever end? Yes, the tollway does end. The tollway ends. It ends north and it ends south, and there's crazy stuff happening at the end of these tollways, as well as the east and the west. I mean, it's just crazy right now, but that just tell you that the heat of the market and the demand, especially with buyers, are always going to be there.
Well, and here's the deal. I saw it's probably a meme or whatever. I live my life on memes and GIFs just because they bring levity to a situation. And somebody said, I don't know who needs to hear this, but renting is still 100% interest rate. And that to me was kind of like that aha, because I tell people all the time, when you're sitting on the sideline and you're renting, you're losing out on equity, you're losing out on the interest rates potentially rising. But when you use that analogy, that renting is still 100% interest rate, I think everybody can get on board with that kind of visual. So I really loved it. And I think, Rogers, you hit the nail on the head. I was a buyer over the summer and about puked during the process. And I still had to do the same thing as a realtor. I was one of 30 offers, and bet you if I put my house on the market right now, I'd have 150, because I'm in a great part of Plano and I have over 1/3 of an acre with a pool. And it's a ranch style that's been completely renovated, and it's absolutely fantastic. In that moment, though, I had to sit there and go, it was another realtor who was the listing agent and the seller. And I had done deals with him before, and he said, Ashley, you've got 30 minutes. You are in the middle of the pack, but I will give you the professional courtesy because I want to work with you to allow you to become offer number 1. And it was a full cash offer. And I was one of those that FHA was possibly going to be better than conventional, just for my interest rate and not putting out my own dirty laundry. It was still a decent credit score, but it was just debt to income, different things that were coming in there, the way my income was verified on tax returns. That's a whole nother soapbox. But imagine having 30 minutes to come up $40,000. And you sit there and you're like, oh God, this is the most horrific experience. And pacing in my office and doing that. And immediately I pulled the plug. And you know what? My house is worth probably at least $90,000 to $110,000 more than it was when I purchased it over the summer. And that right there is exactly what we've been talking about. Yes, Dustin, house party at my house. Yes, I have a nice large backyard and it's beautiful. My 3 dogs get to frolic, and my daughter loves the pool, but it's scary. And you know what, Rogers, you said it, empathy. That was a shot of empathy for me as a realtor in this marketplace to be able to sit there and tell my clients, I've been where you are. And ultimately, I can tell you that things are just going to continue to appreciate. So while you want to puke in a bucket right now, you can go and spend the same amount of money on a rental property and not get an appreciative value there. And that's a depreciative non-asset. Or we can do this. You'll rebound in 6 months from now. You'll be sitting there calling me and sending me cards. Alan, yes, I'll send you an invitation, Alan, for the date of the party. So now I'm on the hook for all of that because I put that out there.
Actually, check this out.
Yeah.
I think so. The market right now gives sellers the reason to say, well, let me give Open Door or OfferPad a shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I got a ton of equity. Let me see what they want to do. And obviously, right now, with if you're trying to build a house, there's certain builders that will not take a contingency. There's certain builders that have their parameters of what they're willing to accept. So it definitely gives those other companies, those iBuyers, a booster when it comes to quickly getting their hands on cash.
No, and I think that's the thing. We've got to think that's another form of innovation. I'm glad you touched on that because so many times we've got sellers going right now to the instant offers, which that's what iBuyers are. They're instant buyers, guys. So just in case, did you make it into the trash can?
I failed, much like my real estate exam. So thank you for bringing up. Only 21 more attempts, but I'm 0 for 1. So
that's okay. That's okay. I love it. But no, I mean, that's something else as far as innovation in our marketplace, which is instant offers. Because like you said, Stephen, we've got so many builders right now who apparently didn't learn their lesson from the early 2000s when they treated us this way, didn't want to actually pay realtor commissions and didn't want our buyers to have any type of, contingency plan or leverage as possible. And I get it, but this too shall, probably at least stabilize a little bit. That doesn't mean we're not going to continue to be aggressive. But that's the hard part is that builders aren't allowing contingencies, but these instant cash buyers or instant buyer platforms are allowing people to stay in their homes. So that's innovation too. Rogers, are you instructing, or are your agents kind of thinking out of the box to try to be a competitor for these Open Door, Orchard, different hedge fund, instant buyer platforms?
Are we? I don't think I understood the question. Did you ask it again?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard sometimes as far as, somebody will say, well, I just don't want to deal with the process. I went on Open Door and they said they give me this amount of money for my house. As a potential agent that wants to list the property, how would you instruct one of your agents to kind of overcome that? Because it's not always the best situation to go with an online platform. There's a lot of arduous fees. They're not upfront. There's a lot of red tape that goes with that. Is there any discussion in your office how to combat that objection in a listing appointment?
I think 2 things. 1, you can't fix stupid. So if some people want to go and make that decision, let them do it. And 2, you can educate them. And I think that one of the things I did when I started is I was a big fan of converting for sale by owners simply by saying, if you hire an agent, whether it's me or someone else, you're likely to go and get 9% more than if you do it for sale by owner. Closing costs are around 7%, so do the math. You just got a 2% bonus by hiring me at a full fee. So I think there's ways to go and do that, with people that are tempted. Because again, I think that the best thing you can do right now with a listing is put it to retail, put it on the market. And I think if you go and sell it, off market, you're missing out on people that don't have access to it. And I think that's why, this whole clear compliance thing, which I'll need to have 85 drinks to talk about that. but I understand the theme of it, because it's almost like if you don't have access to it, it's not fair. But right now, statistically, you're going to get more money. It's going to be more work, but you're going to get more money if you go and make it available to the public. But I also think that if the market was different, the convenience factor plays, a pretty big deal. But
Sure.
again, what I went back to saying a little bit ago, Zillow lost a lot of money because they went and they bet against realtors, and they bet against people that are educated. And that's why our industry as a whole is also safe, is that we're qualified to go and live through this stuff, because we're trained and we see the data that no one else sees. But again, back to open houses, we see it firsthand. And when you do that, nobody can trust you better than your neighbor. And I think that's why a realtor is going to be that much more important as we carry on, the next few decades.
Data is important, and Stephen, I'm gonna let you chime on that real quick.
Yes.
But data is important, but it's how you interpret the data which gives you the keys to the kingdom. And I think that's the difference. If you are relying on an algorithm and an online platform to do everything for you, you are doing a disservice, which cracks me up, because most of the time there are all of these online platforms to get repairs done to your house, to do all of these different things, but people still heavily rely on referrals to do those type of things. And so I think it's the interpretation of the data. Yes. And I think that's where most realtors from the old school perspective suffer, not because they don't have an amazing skill set and an ability to help the average consumer, but it's because they get stuck in the mindset. Now everybody has access to the data, but you have to show what your value proposition is in interpreting said data and how you're going to help your client leverage it. So Stephen, give me a little bit on that.
Yeah, so you have to fix stupid. Stupid is what Zillow was sharing. And the thing about it is there's a level of Zillow where there's just about the numbers from an algorithm, but there is another thing behind transparency. So what we're saying is tell the seller how many offers that you received in this neighborhood on a single property. So if you're farming that particular neighborhood and you're selling and you sold Susie house next door, on Susie home, you got 20 offers. Here's where the average purchase price. Here's the average earnest money. Here's the average days on market. Here's the average lease back that they got. I mean, you have to share that transparency, because again, you have to fix the stupidity and what tools were offered before that now becomes transparent. And that's the reason why we created Homematchx, because we want to be able to tell people in that neighborhood that this house that we listed, we have the data on the offers that were presented. So we have the number of offers in every category of the average of all the way from, like I said, the lease back to the earnest money to the option fee to the option days. When you put all that together, you can educate the seller much better, and they become more informed. But I just think that we have to be able to say, we have to fight for the listing for the neighborhoods that we had our listing in. If we want to be in those neighborhoods, we have to fight. We have to really don't just list a house and just, go work with your buyers. Nurture that neighborhood, understand what it took for you to sell that property, so that then you can educate other sellers in that neighborhood. At least they got to you before they got to Open Door or other companies, because you gave them the raw. I think right now we just got to give people the raw.
Well, I love that. Give people the raw. So we're going to put Stephen's website in the chat so you guys can check out that platform as well on your own. I'm going to highlight, not because of nepotism, but because it's something that I think is what we should end on. And Sherry Fierbacher said, realtors have a responsibility to educate the public about our strong market and never create panic. That is probably the thing I want to end on right here, because we always talk about it's a seller's market. Give me your listings, all of these other things. Yes, we don't need to end on Ashley's new pad and having a house party. But we, from that standpoint, I think we're doing a disservice, and everybody on here needs to understand that there is a value to being a buyer. And if we're always talking about, here's what I did, look what I just did. I just sold a house over a listing price. Well, frick, a homeless person could put a sign in the yard and sell a house over listing price. That doesn't give value to you as a real estate agent. And that's what I think we're doing a disservice right now. We're doing social media marketing and everything else, creating panic, and we're not empowering people to make proper decisions based on the fact that it's always a good time to buy real estate. It's always a good time to invest in dirt. And so we need to kind of change that mindset there. Whereas, yes, I did a great job, like Stephen was talking about, soliciting all of these offers. Here's what's trending. But understand, as a buyer, like Rogers was saying, this is still a fantastic time to buy. It's only going to continue to increase in the DFW marketplace. So think about how you're marketing when you're going on there and trying to do the humble brag and pat yourself on the back. We need to have the whole holistic full picture so we don't scare people from doing what they need to do, because you're also scaring sellers, because sellers are also buyers. So that's my soapbox there. We have had so many comments that I haven't even been able to keep up with all of them. That's just a testimony to you guys. Everybody's saying this was such a wonderful session with words of wisdom and encouraging strategies. But I'm going to give each one of you just 1 minute to give me kind of a sign off. I know this was innovation in real estate and we went all over the place, but that's what this show is about, making it raw, approachable, and we can pivot. So Stephen, give me your sign off here. What do you want to leave the people with today, as far as, whether it's entering the real estate market, being an agent, your platform, whatever? Give me a 1 minute, send off.
Yeah. So just what Roger mentioned earlier, be accessible. You as an agent, you have to understand what your role is into this marketplace. I mean, sometimes it goes deep into the core of your purpose of being present in that service industry. But when you realize that, that your mission is much more stronger to be involved, then you find your true purpose behind it all. But so be encouraged as the buyer's agent, like someone mentioned, is to, don't panic, share, have grace, be encouraged on both sides of the table. A buyer and a seller, they need you right now. It's critical, and they need you to be honest, open, and transparent, and show positivity, because it's a lot of negative conversations behind the buyer side that it is hopeless when you're thinking about it. But I always look at it as a bully. We're entering in a bully market. Who got the most money? But at the end of the day, your money, your piece of paper is just as green as the next person. So it doesn't matter with the situation that you're in. It matters the outcome. So stay long enough to enjoy the end, because the end is going to happen and it is near. So that's just really my approach, and have a smile every time you're doing it.
Thank you, Stephen. And you do have an infectious smile, so keep doing that, and maybe other people will do the same. All right, Rogers, you got 1 minute.
I'll just say, this is like the guy that was the first one that who won Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and he used his phone a friend to call his parents and say, I'm going to be a millionaire. So here's my my closing thoughts. Don't quit, and realize it's just real estate. That's it. And the only people that make it are the ones that realize that early on. So don't quit, enjoy it, and realize that somebody's going to beat you. Who cares? Just keep moving. Don't look back, and don't quit, and enjoy it. But it's just real estate. It's not your life, people. No matter how hard you think it is, it's not your life. There's way more important things, and one of them is above, and the other thing is probably the people that you should be loving better. It's just real estate. Don't let it consume you, please.
You know what, Rogers? I think that's a great footnote. There is, we're doing something that is obviously so powerful for people, but we can't let that discourage us from digging in and digging past all of the friction. And our clients are doing it. We can do the same. Just keep on pushing, execute, work harder than the person next to you, and align yourself with a good brokerage firm We've got 3 of them here. Even though, as Rogers pointed out, I hate real estate agents, even though I don't earlier. I just love people that work. And I think we all have that same thing in common. Just come to work. Come with an open mindset and be ready to kind of dig in this crazy marketplace. But you know what? It's exciting, it's profitable, and it's rewarding. So thank you for all the comments, everybody chiming in this evening, good and bad. And Rogers and Steven, yeah, right. So you guys have a really good fan club though, and that's a testimony to what you guys are doing and leaving a legacy in the real estate industry. So this is not a farewell, it is a see you soon. And thank you again for joining Real Talk. I know, Tier, right? Thank you for joining Real Talk. And for those that weren't here in the beginning, Real Talk won Innovative Program of the Year at the Texas Realtors Conference in Austin this past week. And it's because we have people like you that are willing to come on in an approachable, raw, and transparent format. So hopefully you guys will join us again. And thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time.